Do you want to sit in, lads? But it's going to start. Do you want to sit in?
Adina cara tá falta mór rih gacéine ar an océid arúil seo I Reenascreena. Céad bhliain ó in fuair Diarmuid ó Donovan Rossa bás agus ar an lá seo tugamíd an óir leis agus an ráníocht a bhuair sé le náisiúntaach na éireannach. Bhí gramór aige sa tanga Gaeilge agus I Reenascreena fuair sé gach ólas as Gaeilge cuma le bunacht poblíochta. Agus inis tá as mór orm an starí a scríomh fíilseachán agsúla ar cuasaí éireannach chun caint a thuairt din a gcuine ísle Dr. Sean Kinna.
Hello, thank you everyone for having me, and thank you everyone for coming out today. I hope everyone can hear me. Can everyone hear me? Yep. First of all, to say it's an absolute pleasure to be here to speak about Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa. Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa is a personal hero of mine. O Donavan Rossa is one of the most important, one of the most remarkable Fenians to have ever graced Ireland, to have ever graced America. His life and his death is the very personification of the Fenian movement. On the 29th of June 1915, Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa died in St. Vincent's Hospital in Staten Island. The pro-British Irish Times newspaper announced his death. When they announced his death, the Irish Times stated, to quote the Irish Times, "There was once a time in Ireland when his death would have created a sensation, but it is no exaggeration to say that today there are many who had almost forgotten his existence." Today that is certainly not the case. In 1915, that was not the case either. That was abstract propaganda. The people remembered O Donavan Rossa. Throughout O Donavan Rossa's long life, he was one of the most famous Fenians of his generation. O Donavan Rossa's name was known all across the world. John Devoy once described O Donavan Rossa's life as the very epitome of the history of Fenianism. Devoy was also confident that future historians of future generations, they would remember Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa as the very incarnation of the Fenian spirit. James Connolly, perhaps one of the most famous figures associated with the Easter Rising and within the great pantheon of nationalist heroes, he eulogised Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa, and he believed that O Donavan Rossa was an unconquerable fighter. Arthur Griffith, the founder of the Sinn Féin Party of 1905, he noted that O Donavan Rossa personified the spirit of the Irish nation, and that spirit of the Irish nation was a free spirit. Finally, Patrick Pearse, a name forever associated with O Donavan Rossa, regarded Rossa as an unrepentant Fenian, whose entire life was devoted to the Irish struggle. Indeed, it was at the funeral of Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa on the 1st of August 1915 that Patrick Pearse made his very famous speech. And Pearse ended his speech with the words, to quote Pearse, "The fools, the fools, the fools, they have left us our Fenian dead. And while Ireland holds these graves, Ireland unfree shall never be at peace." O Donavan Rossa's death is the precursor to the Easter Rebellion of 1916. And it's quite interesting today that as we unveil the casket that O Donavan Rossa's coffin was held in. Now I'm going to I know that the rain is coming down, so I'm not going to keep you out in the rain for too long. This casket was described very aptly by O Donavan Rossa's wife, Mary Jane. The coffin was placed inside of the casket in the event that the Germans attacked the boat that he was sailing in. The whole idea was that this would protect the coffin of Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa. She described it in depth in a letter to John Devoy, in which she noted that it was painted navy grey and it was given handles to look like a case. When the casket arrived in Liverpool, it was carried by the Irish volunteers. And the Irish volunteers carried it throughout Liverpool until they put it onto a boat that was making for Dublin City. The Irish volunteers held that they would carry it because a fighter like O'Donovan Rossa, they could not allow his body to touch British soil. His life and his death was the personification of Fenianism. Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa is one of the most important figures within the Fenian movement. And it is a privilege to be here today in West Cork, in the ancestral county of Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa, in a place that was the crucible of Fenianism, to stand here today and celebrate the life of O'Donovan Rossa, one of the best and greatest Fenians of his generation. Now I'm going to pass over, and I want to thank everyone for coming out today, and I hope to see you later on for the launch as well, and thank you very much for coming out to hear me today, and apologies for keeping you in the rain as well. And it's great to see so many people here in West Cork to be out for Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa on such a bad evening as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shane. I now call on Patrick O'Driscoll and Ellen O'Driscoll to lay a wreath on at the monument. I now call for a minute's silence. Thank you. This man needs little introduction, but Michael O'Sullivan was born in Reenascreena South, became an Garda Síochána, but always remained in contact with his native home. He was instrumental in the setting up of the Reenascreena water scheme and later on the disadvantaged area scheme. He was also heavily involved in Ross GAA, where many boys and girls from the locality played sport. Aguina Ishle, Michael O'Sullivan.
We have gathered here this evening for this historic occasion as we honour the centenary of the death of Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa. As you know, he was born in this parish in September 1831 to the parents of Dennis O'Donovan and Nellie O'Driscoll here from Reenascreena. He lived here with his maternal grandparents until he was 7 years old. He then moved to Roscarborough to prepare for his first Holy Communion and confirmation. Little did he think on his leaving here as a young boy in 1838 that 177 years later, on the centenary of his death, which was last Monday, June the 29th, that we will be here this evening celebrating his life as one of the greatest and the bravest patriots of all time in the cause of Irish freedom. He died in New York. It was his stated wish to be buried in Ireland amongst his own people, so his funeral took place in Glasnevin Cemetery, Dublin on the 1st of August 1915. The history of the life and times of O'Donovan Rossa has been well documented over the years. We are here this evening for the unveiling of the casket that housed the coffin which brought the body of Jeremiah O'Donovan Rossa home to Ireland. What is known perhaps is the history, what is not known perhaps is the history of this casket and how it came to be in Reenascreena. I was a member of Garda Síochána stationed in Cove during the early 1960s. And by the way, one of the people in the Historical Society who helped me in Cove is here this evening, Mrs. Dimna Collins, and tonight she's celebrating at 11 o'clock in Cove her 85th birthday. Congratulations, Dimna. On one occasion, through a chance conversation that I had with a local farmer, who informed me of the existence of this casket, which, as he stated to me, bore the coffin containing the mortal remains of O Donavan Rossa from New York to Ireland in July 1915. He showed me the casket on his farm yard shed, which, as he stated, had been stored since 1915. On realizing that I was a native of Reenascreena, Roscarbery, or as he put it, from the O Donavan Rossa country, he stated that he would be very pleased to hand the casket over to me if I wished it to be returned to Rossa's native place. I accepted this offer as I felt that the proper place to have the casket permanently stored and publicly displayed was in his ancestral home here in Reenascreena. I subsequently informed the O'Driscoll family, Patrick and his late brother Dennis, who were second cousins of O Donavan Rossa. Shortly afterwards they accompanied me to Cove, where we collected the casket and brought it here to Reenascreena, where it has remained ever since. The casket was in need of restoration, so we in the Reenascreena O Donavan Rossa Centenary Committee decided to have it refurbished for this year's centenary celebrations here in Reenascreena. We engaged Clonakilty Engineering Company to carry out this work, and they did a marvellous job, as can be seen here later this evening. We are very pleased at their professionalism in this regard, for which we congratulate and thank them most sincerely. Finally, it has been said that O Donavan Rossa expressed a wish to be buried with his father in Roscarbery Abbey, and this may well have happened, were it not for the political scene at the time. Men like Thomas Clarke and Pordick Pierce felt that there was more to gain from a well-publicised funeral in Dublin, where the patriots of the day could use it to promote the patriotic pride and indeed begin the road to the 1916 Rising. So while we didn't get to bury Rossa here in West Cork amongst his own people, this casket, which I am privileged to unveil this evening, will serve to honour his memory and to remind us and future generations of the patriotic deeds and the sacrifices made by one of our own, Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa, from Middlemarket. And could I now call on possibly the oldest and one of many of his relations to O Donavan Rossa, I now call on Paddy O'Driscoll to accompany me into the museum for the unveiling ceremony. Thank you.
An overall history of O Donavan Ross's casket.
First of all, my name is Michael O'Sullivan and I was born here in the townland of Reenascreena. Jeremiah O Donavan Rossa was born here in the Roscarbery parish on the 10th of September 1831, and he died in Staten Island, New York City on the 29th of June 1915. It was Ross's wish that on his being buried, he wanted to be buried in Ireland amongst his own people. On his journey back from America to be buried in Glasnevin Cemetery on the 1st of August 1915, his mortal remains was in a coffin which was placed in a steel casket, and that's what brought the body of Rossa to Ireland at that time. Now, I was a member of Garda Síochána stationed in Cove, County Cork, in the early 1960s. And on one occasion, I had an occasion to visit a farmer on the outskirts of Cove in connection with my duty. And after some discussion, he asked me where was I a native of, and I told him I was a native of Reenascreena, Roscarbery in West Cork. And he said to me, so you must have come from the O Donavan Rossa country? I said yes. He asked me were there relations of his down there still? I said there were, and I knew them very well. And in fact, I went to school with a lot of them in my young days. And I knew their grandfather, old Dennis O'Driscoll, who was the first cousin of Rossa. They had a licensed premises here in the village of Reenascreena. So he said, if you'll come with me across the yard, and which he did, and he showed me the steel casket in the corner of the farmyard shed, and he said this is the casket that brought O'Donovan Rossa's remains to Ireland back in 1915, and that it has remained in this shed ever since. Now he said to me, he said if it would be your wish that this casket be returned to his ancestral homeland in West Cork and Reenascreena, he would be quite happy to give it to me to bring it back to his relations in Reenascreena. So I accepted that, and because I always felt that this was the place for it in his ancestral home. So I brought the news to the O'Driscolls here in Reenascreena, and subsequently both Patrick and Dennis O'Driscoll, who would be second cousins of Rossa, they were delighted at the news, and we took off down to Cove and collected the casket and brought it here back to Reenascreena, where it has remained ever since until the start of this year, 2015. Now this was the year that the centenary celebrations of Rossa, and we formed a Donovan Rossa Centenary Committee here in Reenascreena, and we felt that it would be appropriate to refurbish this casket and have it on display for the centenary celebrations that were taking place all over West Cork, in Clonakilty, Roscarbery, Reenascreena, Rossmore and Skibbereen. So we got Clonakilty Engineering to refurbish the casket. As you can see, made a perfect job of it, and the paint which was put on by Clonakilty Engineering is the very same paint colour as was in the casket originally coming to Ireland. And the name of that paint is Battleship Grey. So having it refurbished, we then decided that we were going to house it here, and we built this museum, and we placed it here for the celebrations on the 3rd of July this year, which I had the pleasure of unveiling this casket on that occasion. And it's placed here now alongside this licensed premises, which is still owned by the O'Driscolls, close relations of O'Donovan Rossa. And over here to my left is a monument which we erected here in honour of Rossa in 1969. And it's placed ideally between the O'Driscoll home and the monument, which people, and it's now in a position where people can see it, and a lot of visitors coming here, and I think it's a wonderful thing to have this historic casket here in the place where O'Donovan Rossa walked here as a young boy, because his mother and father came from over the road here in the townland of Reenascreena. So it's really historic, and I'm delighted to have been involved in retrieving this casket and bringing it back to Rossa's maternal homeland. And there it will remain, hopefully for posterity. And it would also be a reminder to the people of Reenascreena and Roscarbery of the patriot himself, and the historic deeds that he made for the future of Ireland, a future that we who came up the line are now enjoying. Thank you, James.